Kia ora, my name is Robbie and I'm another white man behind a desk, and sure, the Industrial Revolution did have some positives. For example, we all have phones now, with games on them that are so stimulating that if you let someone from the 1600s play one, they'd probably have a panic attack and die. But there are also drawbacks. Namely, the systematic destruction of the Earth's environment and everything that uses that environment to stay alive. Like people. Luckily, since then, here in Aotearoa, we've been doing everything we can to drag the planet back from the brink of extinction. I'm just kidding. Obviously, we're one of the worst countries in the world at stopping climate change. We're honestly just terrible. Between 1990 and 2018, when most of the other industrialized countries in the world were reducing their greenhouse gas emissions, countries like Russia, Japan, the UK, even Australia, for God's sakes. Frickin' Australia. Over here, in clean green New Zealand, we actually increased our emissions by over 57%. It's like we were actively trying to make things worse. It's like we misunderstood the brief and thought the people of Kiribati had made a formal request to live underwater. Even when we joined the Paris Agreement in 2016 to try and keep global warming to 1.5 degrees, we basically lied about helping. Our Paris target was so bad that if every country followed our strategy, then the world was going to heat up by 3 degrees, which is 100% more than 1.5 degrees and guarantees a lot more human deaths than is ideal. Thanos would have thought it was overkill and he would have meant it literally. But in 2019, New Zealand Parliament passed the Zero Carbon Act with almost unanimous support, David, which brought into existence something called He Pō-Arangi, or the Climate Change Commission, or the CCC. It was like finally taking the first steps in an addiction recovery program. We were admitting we had a problem and asking for help. Now, the Climate Change Commission is charged with setting our carbon budgets. That's how much we're allowed to emit each year while staying within targets. And it also recommends fun and exciting new strategies to reduce our emissions, so long as those fun and exciting new strategies are already developed and available, and therefore aren't fun or exciting or new. To make sure the CCC has the impact that they desperately need to have, the Commission was granted the highest power in New Zealand law: suggestion. Yes, the New Zealand Climate Change Commission gathers up and analyses the best research in the world, spends months and months writing their reports to explain their conclusions, and then they cross their fingers and hope Parliament doesn't just chuck their findings into the do not read drawer on top of the reports from the tax and welfare advisory groups. That's the plan. Last year, Climate Change Minister James Shaw also charged the Commission with assessing what he called our embarrassing climate target, to see if it was still any good, which of course it's not, and he knew that, but I guess nerds just like to say I told you so. The Commission is made up of mostly Pākehā experts because of the never-ending legacy of colonisation and a lack of commitment to Te Tiriti, but they're mostly smart folks, and at the end of January they released their draft advice and it did not disappoint. Or it did disappoint, depending on who you are. The report said that not only were current government policies not enough to hit our emissions targets, but that even if we hit those targets, the targets themselves were insufficient. According to the maths, now this is a little bit technical, but if everyone else followed in our footsteps, the Earth would be as doomed as a hot chip at a seagull party. And that's the best case scenario. That's assuming everyone follows in our footsteps, which is a pretty big assumption considering how rich we are compared to other countries. As CCC Chairman Carr, or CCCCC, put it,
we are among the richest nations in the world and we have access to technologies that, should we choose to, we can reduce our emissions. This is indeed a choice we are making. We need to do the right thing and role model for 100 small countries that look like us, that being little does not get you out of jail free.
And now that I know that he has that big powerful beard, I think it's very important that we take the Commission a lot more seriously. Now, responding to Shaw's request about our Paris target, the Climate Change Commission said what everyone thought they'd say. It's a bad target that's bad. The CCC said our new target should be much more than a 35% reduction on 2005 levels, but infuriatingly, it wouldn't actually say what that new number should be. Instead, it left that decision up to the government, an institution famed for its bold, decisive action on the environmental and societal problems of the day. So, is the Climate Change Commission rubbish and bad? Are they a trivial, pointless mess that should feel ashamed for existing? Well, kind of disappointingly for someone who specializes in angry rants, no. They're a political entity. The Climate Change Commission exists as a tool to convince the government and the people of New Zealand to take action. If they make a recommendation that the government doesn't like, the government is allowed to totally ignore that recommendation. And if they had more power, then some governments, and I'm not pointing any fingers, National, wouldn't allow them to exist at all. So the CCC's job is to provide advice that actually influences policy while trying not to die. They're basically Zazu in The Lion King. Okay, they can give advice, but if they give advice that the king doesn't like, then the king will kill them. Because the king is a lion and Zazu is a bird. Do you get that? Okay, the Climate Change Commission also has to explain the situation to the general public and try not to piss anyone off, because the public can also kill them, because they're all powerful antelopes and zebras and farmers and businessmen. And again, Zazu is an annoying British bird. So, if you want to give the Climate Change Commission the best chance of convincing the king that Pride Rock is going to shit and we all have to do everything we can to save it, it's time to say that we stand with Zazu. Just go to haveyoursay.climatecommission.govt.nz and make a submission. You've only got until the 28th of March, so get on it. Bolster the Commission with the only thing that actually affects government behaviour: public opinion. And if you feel like you don't know what to say, a bunch of organisations like School Strike for Climate, 350.org.nz and Gen Zero have put together a submissions guide which you can go to at bit.ly/helpzazu. Do it. Now. This is your chance to make a difference. Look, ultimately the Commission is a fragile, rhetorical, political entity. And if it wasn't that, it wouldn't be allowed to exist. So, with that in mind, make a submission and do everything you can to help it along. Because as CC once said,
we need to do the right thing and role model for 100 small countries that look like us, that being little does not get you out of jail free.
Thank you. Thanks.